everyone, welcome. This is Friday Connect. We do this every single week on our Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for all of you being here. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure Jacob's going to put a link in the chat box. Make sure you connect with us there. And we do a training every single week for real estate, business growth, lead generation, marketing strategy, social media training, name it. We do them here, and it gives you really a sneak peek to what it's like to join our group, what our mastermind calls are like. And we really have a really nice a community, online community on our Facebook group. So please join us there. That's where we run polls to figure out what kind of topics you like to see. So please join us there. Myself, I'm Tharmila Rajasingham, and this is Jacob. We're the co-host of this event. We're here every single week with a different topic. And if you have any questions at all, make sure you connect with us. You can privately message us through our Facebook group as well. And this is a free training, and we do this every week. So I just wanted to put that out there. And this week is super special. We have actually one of our team partners and business partner, Connor Steinbrook, joining us. And our topic today is the BRRRR strategy around real estate investing. And the reason why a topic like this is so important, and the reason why we bring it to all of you, is that we realize that a lot of real estate agents aren't into that real estate investment space, not investing in themselves or their business. However, this is also a great topic for you to get a lot of insights from one of our top, actually in the southern US, he's one of the top real estate investors in the US. And you get to hear from him some of the strategies of how he grew his portfolio and why this investment strategy is so unique. And you can take that strategy for your own real estate business when communicating with real estate investors. And that's another reason why we bring topics like this. And just to give you a little bit of an introduction before I pass this on to Connor, is Connor Steinberg is actually one of the top real estate residential investors in the US. Like I mentioned, he also has a top YouTube channel called Investor Army. I highly recommend you check that out. We'll leave it in the chat box as well, so you can subscribe to that. He's also at our broker GXP Realty. He's one of the co-founders of one of the largest organization and one of the international organizations with over 2,000 agents worldwide. And we have the privilege of working with him on a weekly basis. And he shares a ton of info, and we want to bring him to the forefront so that you can get to know him and learn a bit of these strategies from him. So today I'm gonna pass it on to Connor. Take it away and tell us everything that we need to know about the BRRRR strategy.
Awesome. Let me share my screen here, and let's see if I can get this up and going. How's everybody doing? All is well?
And if any of you that are for folks that are going to be tuning in and that are here, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We're happy to answer them for you in our Q&A portion after the presentation with Connor is done.
Does that look good, guys? Y'all can see that?
Perfect.
All right, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the BRRRR strategy, and right there at the top, that's essentially what it stands for. So you've heard this term before. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Now, what does all that mean? Why do we do it? And why does it have to be done in a certain way? And what is the benefit to do it this way? So the first thing is the BRRRR strategy is a way to scale a portfolio when your working capital or your long-term capital has limitations. So let's say you had like $1 million, and then you bought 4 rental properties worth $250,000 a piece. Well, that's great. You now have 4 properties, and you have 4 properties that cash flow, but you're out of working capital. So your money's tied up. And so in business, especially in real estate, as you guys know, we're trying to leverage. We're borrowing money. We're using either interest-only loans or amortizing loans, meaning the loan pays down. But you're going to run out of the actual dollars that you have. Your what's called disposable income at some point, which is the income that you have after you make it, pay taxes on it, and all your living expenses. What's left over is your investable amount. And this is going to run out. And so a lot of people are trying to leverage into loans where they just buy a property instead of paying all cash. They'll just go get a traditional bank loan and purchase the property. But what happens when you have a traditional purchase, you're putting 80% down. Let's say it's a $100,000 house. You're having to bring, $20,000 to the table, plus all the closing costs and carrying costs. And that's on a low price point property. So eventually you're going to run out of money. So what we're going to talk about here is how to grow your portfolio and cycle your money through. And so you can do this without having to have a lot of extra effort on the front side. So the first part of this is we're going to have to buy a house. We're going to buy a cash flow property. And to find the best properties, you want to try to stay sub $250,000 in most markets. This is where you're going to see most properties cash flow. When you look at the relationship between time or the relationship between what type of loan you could get, what you could rent that property for, and kind of all the taxes and things that we're seeing on a nationwide scale, is kind of sub 250 is where you're going to stay in that cash flow range. But you're going to want to have at least 20% equity in the property by the time you're done fixing it up, renovating it, and going back to the bank to refinance out. Now, on the front side of this process, you're going to use other people's money in different ways. You could use your own money if you have cash, but this is pretty much a strategy to do if you're low on capital, but you can use a credit line, a HELOC. If you have other properties or your own personal house, you can take a home equity line of credit out against it. You can raise private money from anybody in your local market, friends, family, other people in real estate. It's harder to raise money from people in real estate. So if you're looking for private money lenders, go outside the industry, or with a hard money lender, which is traditionally how most people are going to do this, which is they're going to use an interest only loan, which is, let's say, if you're not familiar with that term, let's say you bought a $100,000 house on an interest only loan versus a $100,000 house on an amortizing loan. One's going to pay down over time. So think about a traditional house paying off over 30 years as compared to the interest only loan. If you owned it for 30 years, you're going to pay interest on it every single month on that 100,000, but at the end of that 30-year term, you still owe the full 100,000. So the principal amount never pays down. So what we're going to do is I want you to think about interest only to amortizing, and that's kind of the in and out process. Okay. The first step is we're going to buy the property at a discount. Then we're going to get the property in a depressed condition where we need to force the equity appreciation of the house up. So we're going to repair the house, and what this is going to do is going to drive the equity value up. And we're going to look at the comps and the property values of the houses that our house is going to look like when we're putting it back on the market if we were to sell it, or if we're going to put it up there for rent. So the after ARV stands for after repair value or market value, which is going to be the top of the market, meaning if you renovated the house, what would it sell for once it's fixed up? And that's going to be kind of our starting number. So we're going to renovate the property to push that equity value up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to rent the property. So after we have the property rented, what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to get the property rented, and we're going to take the property down to a local bank, primarily probably going to like a credit union or a community bank. You're going to have a lot better chance of getting a better loan and working with better loan products and long-term getting into more loans if you stay inside the smaller banking systems like the local banks, because when you get to the big banking systems, you know, they're selling those loans on the secondary market, and you're going to be looked at as a digital person or numbers on a computer screen and not a human being. Whereas in the small banks, you can go and meet the president, vice president, asset managers, and things like that. So I'd start out with local banks and community banks. And this is when you're going to go refinance the property out. Now you can do a refi into any type of long-term amortizing loan, anywhere from 15 to 30 years. Now the trade-off is if you're going to do a shorter amortizing loan, you're going to pay off the property quicker. You're going to have less of a total, you're going to pay less interest over time, but the cash flow is going to be smaller on the front side. So let's say on a 30-year loan, you may be cash flowing $400 a month. On a 15-year loan, you can maybe be making $100 a month, something like that. So it's a trade-off of equity versus cash flow. So if you're thinking, I want to have a retirement play and just, I don't care about the cash flow, I have a great job, I just want these properties paid off free and clear, because as soon as they do, you're getting full cash flow off the property because there's no payment. Then you can go with like a 15-year loan. You want to get them paid off quickly. And I have videos actually breaking this down in detail, very detailed, on my Investor Army channel. And then, or if you have a 30-year loan, the cash flow is going to be higher, but it's going to take twice as long to pay off where you're going to get to those equity values. So it's really to each their own how they look at their business. But then the last part is we're going to repeat the process. And I'm going to go back over this bottom part here in a second. But the repeat process is how you're going to cycle your money out. But let me kind of go through some numbers here with you real quick, and then I'll explain that last little part, and then I'll open up for questions. But this would be a typical deal or easy numbers to kind of look at a traditional refinance property. So let's say you're marketing in the marketplace, you get a house under contract, or the homeowner's willing to sell it to you for $100,000. Now you've run all your numbers, you look at the property to get it to where you need to get it to go to, you're going to put $35,000 in repair costs. And then along that project's course, you're going to have some carrying costs. You're going to have water, taxes, electric, loan fees, and things like that. And then the processing fees and transactional refinancing fees when you get it refied out. So these can all vary depending on lots of different things. But let's just assume for this example, we're going to use about a $15,000 cost to get into the property and finish out and exit out and have a financed property on the backside. So if you add all of that, we're going to have a total of $150,000 out of pocket. So the way that you want to do this is you want to borrow all that money ahead of time with a hard money lender. Now, if you don't have great credit and you don't have a great financial position, most hard money lenders are going to be what's called an asset-based lender and not a FICO-based lender. The difference is one's looking at the asset for collateral, one's looking at the person and their background, their income, their credit, and things like that. So as long as you have big enough equity position in the property, most of these hard money lenders, as long as they don't have a really bad feeling from you, are going to lend on the property, not the person. So that's the reason why you can do this. So let's say that you try to get a bank loan on the front side and it wouldn't work out, then you could go this way instead. So now that you have the property fixed up, a tenant in it, you're 150,000 in. Now when the property is appraised, it's worth $200,000. So the market value is pushed up. Now, if you look down there at the bottom, most typical loans that you're going to get on a refi, if you can get up to 80%, that's great. They're going to give you 80% of your money back. So if you take $200,000 by 80 cents on the dollar, or 80% right there, you'll see that they'll be willing to give you a $160,000 loan. So you have $150,000 into the property that you borrowed all this money, and you have $160,000 coming back. And you have a 20% equity position in the property. So you've got 40K in equity. So you have $40,000 profit sitting in the property. And then what also do you have? Look at the bottom. So if you only have $150,000 owed back to your lender and everybody that you borrow money from, but you brought in $160,000, that means you're going to have a $10,000 cash flow spread, or cash spread. Now, the cool thing about doing this type of strategy is when you do a typical refi, since you're when you pull your cash out like that, it's a non-taxable event because you're pulling it out from a cash out refi. So you're not even gonna have to pay taxes on it, $10,000. I'm obviously not an attorney or CPA, but that's one of the benefits to doing so. So if you think about this, you borrowed money up front, you got into a property with none of your own money or little of your own money, maybe using credit cards to kind of get into the closing process. You went through a project, renovated it, forced the property up, went back to the bank and put a 15 to 30 year amortizing loan on the property. And that property now has $40,000 in equity in it. And over time, as real estate market goes up, that can expand. And then the principal amount's getting paid down as the tenant's paying it down. And you have $10,000 now in your pocket as far as working capital. Now, here's the big benefit. Now, I was trying to get this done before here, but you can see right down there, I'm going to give you an understanding of why this is leverage and why this can work and why people flatline building their portfolios. So look at that first example. If you have $1 in your hand and you go to the store and you go buy a candy bar, and then you eat the candy bar, what do you have now? You have no dollars, but one candy bar. And when you ate the candy bar, you have no candy bar. So you literally have nothing. So this is why consumer debt and what people usually do spend their money on is not that great of an opportunity to create wealth. This is how people never become wealthy. What if we took that $1 and let's just assume it's a house that we can buy with it? We can maybe take that into $100,000 or whatever it is. Now we use that dollar to buy the house. Okay. We borrow that money. Then when we go refi, what happens? We're going to get the money back and the house. So instead of getting rid of the dollar and the candy bar, we actually still have our money and the house. And this is how investors think, and this is how they cycle their money through. And so they take that same money, buy a house, fix it up, refinance out, bring their money back in, still have that first house. Now they take the money they did that same process with, and that's when they're going to repeat that process. So they're taking the same money in and out, and along the way, they're increasing their income by doing active income strategies, flipping houses, wholesaling, selling real estate, other things that they can do. And hopefully doing this on a multiple house process where they're doing 2 or 3 or 4 at a time, deploying all their dollars, their soldiers in the marketplace, let's say, and then bringing them back in and then just cycling that process through. But I'm going to go ahead and unshare my screen for you guys. Let's see here. I don't know if you can do that for me, Jacob. How do I get back here? And, but I'd be glad to, how do I get back there?
Let me see if I can stop it. You just basically go back up to the share at the top and say unshare.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of the overall process, and I can go ahead and answer any questions that you guys would have for you. But the real benefit is you're going to run out of working capital. So you're going to run out of money, and you're not going to be able to control these properties long term. And you're going to have bills and life expenses and things like that as you're kind of going through your experience. And this is a way for you to have a limited amount of money, a small amount just to get into the loans, but leverage yourself into a portfolio. And this is how people can do this where they don't come from traditional background of having a high net income job or really credit or being, someone that's really have friends and family kind of helping them out and giving them money, things like that.
Do you kind of, while people are grabbing or just figuring out what they want to ask you, in terms of the BRRRR strategy, do you find that if somebody has a stable job, obviously they can refinance on their own? Do you suggest that this is the strategy to start off with, or do you recommend from the get-go find somebody else so that you know that you're going to run out of cash, so that you have somebody kind of aligned with you? Like, what are some ways that you can prep for you running out of capital?
Yeah, so in everything in life, guys, in business, you're gonna have 3 expenses: time, money, and emotions. So it's always a battle of time and money. So it really depends on each individual investor where they're at in their career. So for example, like if you're money heavy, where you've done really well and you have businesses creating a lot of cash, your time is going to be way more valuable. So you're probably not going to want to buy houses and fix them up and go through that time management side of things and repair and pull your money out. So, like for example, like let's say you're flipping a house and the profit's $30,000. If your hourly income is worth like $25, but if your hourly income is worth 100, what does that mean? If you put that extra time into, let's say now you may have made no money when you look at the relationship between your hourly income and opportunity cost of that income. So what if you make $5 an hour? Your income goes way up. So the higher your hourly income, the more likely you are to not want to do renovations and go through this process, where you're more likely to save your time and overplay your money. Meaning, I'm just going to go straight to the bank, purchase the property on a 20% amortizing loan, and I'm just going to leave tens of thousands of dollars into it. Because if I look at it where I'm saving all my time, I can go buy more properties quickly and take my opportunity cost of my time and generate more deals. But if you're time heavy and dollar poor, where you're not dealing with a lot of dollars, then you want to trade your time to go through this process to leave fewer dollars in and use your time to create the portfolio. If that kind of makes sense, how I'm explaining it. So it really depends on your situation, on your working capital, but and then also the amount of time it takes to do the transaction. Let's say it's a massive renovation versus a quick in and out, paint carpet, swap some cabinets out, and just kind of, get in and out. But if it's not massively time impacting your time, you should always do it this way because of the leverage of your dollars. But if you get to a situation where you're building your portfolio and over time you're having a great active income coming in, so like right now, what I do with my portfolio, I'm just looking for almost rent-ready properties where I'm not putting almost any time into it, and I'm overpaying for the properties to outprice. So some of you guys are like, well, how do people in my marketplace pay 85 cents on the dollar? I'm using my own money, so I don't have the interest-only points up front. I'm not in and out through a front-end hard money lender to a back-end amortizing loan. So I can pay more because I have cheaper money because I'm using my own money. So that took me, a decade to get to that point. But this is how, when you understand like where people are at in their career, it's always, are they time heavy or dollar heavy? And then the renovation, how much time will it take to do it? And then how many dollars will you have to leave in the renovation? Because sometimes you guys are going to get caught not just in your long-term capital that you're leaving in, meaning once the property's financed out and you're leaving it long-term, you're going to have different front side lenders, like hard money lenders, that you may have to bring more money out of pocket to do that transaction, meaning they charge more points up front, or they're charging rehab draws and things like that. So you always want to guard your dollars, and you always want to look at like a typical project. Let's say the average project you're doing, you're leaving $20,000 of your own money in. Well, you have $100,000. That's 5 houses that you can have. So look at it in relationship, like that kind of incrementally. But kind of a vague answer for you guys, but I think you understand what I'm saying. It's really to each where you're at. I would look at your hourly income, and especially some of you guys have been flipping houses for a long time. I didn't really think about that for a while. And then when I really started having a big income, because I didn't have an income forever, I was working in debt forever. I was like, man, this actually doesn't make sense for me to be giving up driving to the property over and over and doing all this. And I was making like big money on the flip, like 30, 40, 50K flips, good profits. But when you look at how many hours I was putting in the deal, it really didn't make sense to be doing it. But if you have no income at the time and nothing coming in, it's like a massive ROI. So start looking at like that time and dollar relationship, and then also stress relationships. It's not just like, what if the property's way away from you? Some of you guys have bought certain types of properties that are, structurally compromised and things like that. So start thinking, when you make your decisions, time, money, and your energy and emotion, and you'll start making better decisions on the house that you buy.
That's awesome. Thank you, Connor. And it doesn't seem like there's any questions that have come through. I have another question for you. Potentially, this can help other people look at it. BRRRR, I think for me, out of the whole process of the BRRRR acronym, renovations, like the rehabbing part, seems the not just the time consuming, comes with a lot of liability, a lot more thought process has to go in. Do you feel? I know I've heard you say different tactics around it. I would love for you to share this here. Do you find that you to have full control of the renovation is the best way to go? There are a lot of companies right now. I've had somebody ask me about this as well. Do you recommend, if you're a brand new investor, do you rather just get a company who's kind of like a hybrid of a contractor / a wholesaler who gets an undervalued property, distressed property, they renovate it, they sell it to you still below market value? What are your thoughts around that? Like, how do you go about it if you're kind of starting out in the space and you don't have a lot of experience with renovations?
So I think you're describing what we call like a turnkey company, where they're going to just get you an operating property. So what they're doing is they're avoiding you the time of doing it. Now, some are hybrids, like some turnkey companies, you can just go to the company and buy the property off their website, where it's like, here's the property, here's the value, here's what's rented for, that's been in there for 4 months, here's the cash flow, here's the numbers, and you're just buying that property from them. And they're able to create a much bigger spread on their side because they're saving you so much time and stress. The hybrid model that you're talking about is where the company's doing that service for you, but they don't have the working capital to control the inventory, I guess you could say, on the front side. Been like if you're going to Walmart, but there's nothing on the shelves, and you're like, hey, I want these products, so I'm going to give you my money up front, and then they're going to go buy them, and then they're going to bring them back to you, as compared to just going to Walmart and buying it. So a turnkey property is fine if you walk the property, inspect the property, and the tenant's in there, and the lease agreement's done, and everything's done right. So as long as the company's on the up and up, you're just looking at the sheer, you're basically buying a return on your dollars. You're looking at the cash flow play. The problem with certain turnkey companies is many of these companies prey, just so you guys do know, on external investors, meaning people that are in equity markets, meaning like a California or New York. These markets are not more cash flow markets. These are markets where you can flip a house and make $250,000 or $500,000 because they're high price point. So what a lot of investors do is they flip in high price point markets for big transactional income, huge checks, six-figure checks, and then they invest in flyover country. They're going to build their rental portfolio out in, Indiana or Ohio or Mississippi, where the cash flow numbers are strong. And that's what these companies know. And these people live halfway across the country. And there's been all sorts of situations where like people bought properties and there was no property, or the tenant wasn't in it, and all sorts of issues. So as long as you know the company is reputable, you check out the property and it's a legit deal, you're good. As long as the math makes sense for what you think is a good investment for you, you're fine. That's the only risk I've seen with that. But you just want to make sure, and people do build their portfolio. Busy people do that way. That's why that model exists. They're just taking the renovation side and the deal acquisition side out, but you're gonna have a little bit thinner deal. The reason why you want to do your own deals is you can hit a home run, meaning you're never going to buy from like a turnkey company. They're going to always move just like a wholesaler, they're going to always move the sales price up to the max value that they can get the marketplace to pay, which is the service that they're giving. You're saving a lot of stress and time to do it. But if you spent the same money that you were doing on your own marketing campaign, you may come across a home run deal that you may have $100,000 in equity left in the house, and it's get $1,000 cash flow. So that's the reason why you want to do your own marketing, is the ability to have much bigger deals, but you also have the risk of, what if I don't return the money from the marketing strategy? So it's always risk or reward, and how big do you want to go versus how much do you want to take a risk. But there's no problem with turnkey companies ultimately, as long as the numbers crunch out and make sense.
No, that makes sense. And I think really depends on where you are in the investor stage, right? A lot of people that are in our area that have been asking about investment, they already have another job. They have a lot of other priorities. They have children. They are, for the first time, kind of going to some networking events. They're trying to watch some of these YouTube videos like ours and trying to learn a couple of things. And now it piqued their interest. They know that there's an opportunity here for whatever the, shorten the retirement age, whether it be a generational wealth, not so much to, make them financially free today, but they know that there's a value in this on the long term. They want to get into it, but they don't have a lot of time. They don't want to put a lot of effort. Like flipping properties and doing BRRRR requires a bit of time in your hand, looking for the right property. And where you are, if you're in a very large metropolitan area, to go really further out, or to even go out of the province or state lines, is a little bit more of a work, right? So I think that's where I'm trying to get to, is that, when you're in that kind of space, and what are your options, right?
Yeah. So like HGTV kind of ruined the world of the investors. So like, just so you guys know, that's interior designing. That's not renovating houses. It's not how it's done. And like, you want to try to do the least amount of work on a property as possible. So like, because of this like kind of HGTV wave and YouTube and all these people that are really not successful in real estate, when you really look behind the scenes, I thought I had to do it like that. So like every house I went into, I'm like, which wall can I knock down to add value? And I'm so smart. I'm gonna change but you should never be trying to change electrical or plumbing or moving walls and structural issues. So there's renovations and there's rehabbing. So like one is like where you're actually moving walls, and the other one's just where you're just kind of doing paint, carpet, doing that type of stuff. So I would say for people that are working 9 to 5 or have other sales jobs that they're very busy with their time, that it just depends on their long-term goals. Do they really want to build a real estate business? Meaning, let's say they're over here selling insurance and they make good money, or they have a good 9 to 5, or they make a corp. And they really want to be a real estate professional, flipping houses and doing this full time, or this is an investment for them. Like, they don't need to learn how to flip a house. They don't want to do all this. They don't. Just like why someone would go to like a mutual fund or stockbroker, someone that's they don't want to research stocks. They just want to trust someone else. So then it would be okay. But if their goal is to exit their 9 to 5 and replace it and run their own business, and they want to run a full-time like house flipping and long-term cash flow rental business or something like that, then I'd say probably buy a few of these to get enough cash flow coming in, get up to probably maybe $1,500 cash flow where you feel you could start taking time away, or if you got to where you could step away from your job. But then you're going to have to learn the entire process. You're going to have to learn the renovation costs and expenses and things like that if you're going to run a full business. So really, once again, is your goal. Do you see yourself going into business long term, or are you just an investor and you like the idea of investing in real estate on the side of your other ways of creating your income for your family?
That sounds good. No, thanks for that information. It's awesome. Thank you everyone for being here. And if any of you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm just going to do a quick wrap up and just mention a couple of the housekeeping things that in the event that you missed our intro, if you want to book a call with us, meet with us privately, how we can grow your real estate business, let us know. You can connect with us on our Facebook. Jacob's going to put a link in the chat box. Click us there. Join our Facebook community. You can also join us and check out our website. There's tons of marketing resources, all the things you get for free when you join our group. Anything about the fact that if you're ever trying to make a move in your real estate business, talk to us. We do all sorts of things with you. We have access to 80 hours of weekly training, access to global networks into 24 countries, free CRM, website, social media training, SIS mastermind calls weekly. And this is just a sneak peek of what our mastermind calls are like. And so thanks for being here. It looks like there's no other questions. Thank you, Jacob, for putting in the information in the chat. Thank you so much, Connor, for being here and sharing us a ton of information. And if anyone, that's why anytime we talk about real estate investing around that space, we always want to bring you forward because you are the master at it. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Jacob, for all of your help for being here as well.
Yeah, hopefully that helped. And thanks for having me on.
Pleasure's ours. Take care, guys. We'll see you next Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Take care.
Guys.
Have a good day.